Live from Silicon Valley, it's theCUBE, covering Google Cloud Next 17.
Okay, welcome back everyone. We are live in Palo Alto for 2 days of coverage of Google Next 2017. I'm John Furrier. We're here with Tom Kemp, CEO of Centrify. No longer a startup, they're scaling up. You guys are doing very well. Tom, great to see you. Welcome to theCUBE.
Great to be here.
Saw you at RSA. You guys had an exceptional event, one presence at the show, obviously a security show.
Yep.
You're in the security business. But also Mobile World Congress, we tried to get you on. Again, security's hot front and center at Mobile World Congress.
Yeah.
Security is front and center at Google Cloud Next. Security is front and center at blank event. It's happening everywhere, right? So give us the update. What is Centrify? Obviously, the no breaches is your tagline. What's up with Centrify? Give us a quick update on what you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a security company focused, as you said, on identity. And we really address the issue of too many passwords and too much privilege. The fundamental issue that's happening within security is like $75 billion is being spent on it. It's one of the fastest growing market segments. But it's failing because the breaches are far outnumbering and growing at a faster rate than the amount of money is being spent on that. And so we're trying to rethink security by looking at where the breaches are coming from. And they're coming in from, like in the case of Podesta, stealing usernames and passwords. And Verizon said 2/3 of breaches involve stolen credentials. And Forrester just recently said that 80% of breaches involved the compromise of privileged accounts, the root accounts for the infrastructure, et cetera. So if 2/3 to 80% of breaches involve identity, we fundamentally believe you need to focus a lot more on that. And that's what we're all about, focusing on identity.
And what is this a new revelation, or is this something that you guys have felt was happening for a long time, or has it just been the matter of fact that's what's happening?
You know, we have some great investors, and we have Excel, Mayfield, Index, Sigma, now called Jackson Square Ventures. And one of the board members told me, was like, you know, the market's come to you, because we've been doing this for over 10 years and focusing on identity. And people were like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But now if you look at just the massive number of breaches that are occurring, and the focus that identity is the leading attack vector, and then you couple it with the whole move to the cloud. I know we're going to be talking about what Google's doing in the cloud, et cetera. It actually makes the problem even worse. And so we feel that we've been plugging along, doing and focusing on identity, and now kind of the market has come to us because of the move to cloud, and the hackers are going after identities.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw a Facebook friend, I won't say his name for privacy because I don't have the right to talk about it, but he's in Bitcoin, so obviously in that world is underbelly in itself. No, but interesting thing is that he had two-factor authentication on his phone, and someone hacked his phone, and they sent the password back to his phone. All his bank accounts are gone. Oh my goodness. So this is an example of that privileged identity. So that even two-factor authentication is not, in this case, didn't work. So you're starting to see this, right? So what's the answer, and how does it relate to cloud? There's no perimeter in the cloud. Is it federated identity? Is some sort of blockchain thing? Is there a new model? What's your view on this, and how are you guys attacking it specifically?
Yeah, I mean, in a world in which we're increasingly moving to the cloud, what can you secure? Like if I'm at a Starbucks in Palo Alto, on my iPad, talking to Google Apps, talking to Salesforce, et cetera, I don't have any antivirus. I'm not using a next-gen firewall or VPN, et cetera. So the focus needs to shift to securing the user. And you really need to start integrating and leveraging from a multi-factor authentication biometrics as well. Use that phone, use the Touch ID to actually ensure that. And then also in the cloud, start analyzing user behavior and actually determine, well, wait a minute, this person normally doesn't log in from China, but now he's accessing the Salesforce or Facebook or et cetera. So it's evolving more to utilizing mobile device as part of your identity, and it's also leveraging machine learning to understand what normal behavior is, and blocking abnormal behavior.
And also using big data techniques, because your point about China is interesting. I mean, anyone who travels might have had the situation where, you know, we go to Vegas a lot for theCUBE, but like I'm in Vegas and I pull out an ATM withdrawal, and next, I go to use my other credit card and it says, whoa, fraud alert.
Yes.
Well, wait a minute. I made a cell phone call. I took money out of the bank, and yet the credit card didn't know that I'm in Vegas. Now that's interesting, but so conversely, if China is accessing my accounts and I'm making phone calls from Palo Alto, that should be obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, is that where that just seems like it's just so fragmented data sets.
Yeah. So, I mean, historically, the definition of identity was a username and a password, right? But in a cloud world, identity should be redefined in terms of your applications, your device, your location, and your activity. So if you are trying to access an app from China, it should ask you for 4 or 5 additional bits of information. It's instead of 2 factors, should be multi-factor, and it should include biometrics as well. So machine learning is just going to become even more critical to reduce fraud and the compromise of credentials.
So let's talk about Google next, because one of the things that I'm really, we know Google, we're living in Palo Alto, they're all around us, they're in Mountain View. Larry Page lives in the hood here. Google has always been a technology innovator, and it's clear that that's the lead for their cloud. But the enterprise, which they're, by the way, serious about, Diane Green is very serious with the enterprise, they're just starting to move down that road. You've been there for a while on mobile and in the enterprise. What are some of the things that people should know about on how hard it is in the enterprise? Specifically with cloud, what are some of the things that you see as table stakes?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually having meat-eating sales reps out in the field, right? Not relying on some person who's some 20, bot. Some bot or some 20-year-old calling from Austin or Mountain View, but it's actually having someone there with a technical architect that can hop on a subway or be there within a half hour to spend some quality time.
And strategic selling too, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because they have a challenge, which is they're competing with both Microsoft and Amazon, and obviously Microsoft has the enterprise people, and Amazon is really ramping up in that area. And I think that so you can throw the technology, but enterprise accounts want to be able to have a conversation face to face more so than executive coming out and having a dinner with someone.
So take me through a sales motion, because this is important, because you and I have talked about this in the past, and Dave Vellante and I always talk about it on theCUBE, and it used to be well known in the VC circles that sales forces are expensive because the sales motions are different. What is a typical sales motion for an enterprise like sale? Because it's not as simple as saying self-service, cloud, put your credit card down and get Kubernetes support, terminal access, static IPs, virtual servers. Oh, by the way, I got to support DB2 as well, a non-Oracle database or Oracle.
Well, look, I mean, it's very easy to have that buy it over the web for when you start a developer for a new application, okay? And Amazon's done a great job at that. Microsoft's getting there as well. So if you really want the existing applications to move to the cloud, you have to sit down and have conversations about a hybrid cloud environment, because people will have on-premise Active Directory, they'll have a set of security policies, et cetera. And so the conversation needs to be had is like, how do you bridge on-premise and with the cloud as well, and make that heterogeneous environment look and feel and smell like it's homogeneous from authentication, authorization, audit perspective, compliance perspective, et cetera. So you certainly need to, first and foremost, be able to put architects out there, have that conversation, et cetera. And you just can't rely too much on partners. And then I think from there, service level agreements, and then also showing that your cloud platform is incredibly secure as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I would just say one on the meat-eating sales rep, but basically what that means is people who understand the domain with an architect, technically like an SE.
Yeah.
And then you have to really kind of have an understanding that there's a multiple stakeholder role. One's a recommender, one's an influencer, one's a decision maker, and it's a campaign. Yeah, it's a multi-pronged campaign.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think.
Know their problems, give them a solution, value creation.
Absolutely. Because,
value selling.
Because there's just a level of complexity, right? And again, I'm not saying that Google for new projects, with the current, sales motion can't bring on an app, and maybe that app leverages the machine learning, which seems to be world class, right?
Yeah. TensorFlow's getting great traction. Intel's building chips for that as well. Google owns a great developer mindshare. I think they've really cracked the code on open source, and they have great empathy with the developers we were talking about with Val earlier. But operationally, I just see a disconnect. And Amazon's quietly ramping up too. They're no spring chicken either when it comes to direct selling, but they have been working more years on that.
And I think you're seeing the word hybrid cloud, and I know you spent time with the folks at VMware talking about the relationship with Amazon. That's all about the hybrid cloud, which people need. The enterprises need a bridge and on-ramp, and I think from our perspective,
VMware is very solid with Gelsinger and their sales force. They're very strong with enterprise selling.
And that's what we focus, because we initially started on-premise. We tied things into Active Directory, for example, but now we have a cloud platform, and we advertise and promote ourselves as addressing identity for the hybrid environment and providing the bridge between the two. And I think that's critical.
Now, do you guys have an enterprise sales force, right?
Absolutely.
So you've invested in that. How over 10 years?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we have over 60% of the Fortune 50, and 80% of our sales comes from the Global 2000. And we've grown. I mean, we're over 100 million in sales. So we're in there having that conversation, with enterprises all the time.
So Tom, so we know Diane Green lives in the neighborhood. So let's pretend that she calls us up. Hey Tom, John, come over. We'll have a cocktail and dinner. I need your advice on how to ramp up my enterprise operational. Empathy and strategy. What would we advise her? What would you advise her? I have my own opinion, but I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I think it's. I really think and focus on. Obviously, use the machine learning as a key wedge for new applications, but really focus on the concept of hybrid. And she mastered going from physical to virtual, right? Now everyone's virtualized, and so she needs to figure out how I can get virtual to cloud, V2C, right? And have the people and have the conversation and provide bridging technologies as well. So I think that is going to require not just purely cloud-based stuff, but it's going to probably provide, she's going to need either through partnerships or developing herself, or M&A, she's going to have to build connectors, right? To help facilitate the bridging to get because, she can go after definitely the 20% of the new stuff, but if you want to attack the 80% of the existing stuff, and she did a masterful job of going physical to virtual. At VMware. And now her challenge is to go V2C, virtual to cloud.
I agree. So my advice, Diane, if you're watching, is the following. One, don't screw up the Google formula. And I know she's transforming Google, and that's a good thing. They need that right now. But I think what I like about what I'm seeing at Google Next right now is that they have great technology chops in kind of the Google pat themselves on the back kind of way, which is they got mojo. I mean, they've always had great technology mojo, and that comes down from the founder. So the machine learning stuff, the AI, the stuff they're doing in their portfolio has, I call the coolness relevant factor on the tech. What I would do is I would specifically nurture that, and because she's also got a good knack for doing innovative things, and she's a very innovative manager, and I've seen that at VMware and other places that she's been advising. So she's got a knack for, that's cool. We should do that cool technology that's going to have legs in the future. So she's got a good sage picking out the technology. I would do an M&A. I'd say, I would just stop expanding the existing Google culture relative to the sales motions and the enterpriseness and just go buy somebody. Spend $1 billion or more. Take someone out who's got full global regional sales force. Why not? Because then those guys already have the relationships. So the buy build to the sales force, to me, might take too long. I'm not sure that they could get there. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's. I think, and they've been public about it. I think they have to have they have to invest in their own. But I do think that M&A. I mean, they're number 3, right? And they got to do something. And clearly the machine learning AI stuff is going to be, huge. And we were actually very impressed. So I got emails from the folks at the show about this whole video stuff in terms of their ability to use the machine learning AI to interpret video, which is pretty impressive. But again, that's going to be kind of more for a vertical, right? Or a specific type of application. And so I think they're going to need to do a combination.
Yeah, but here's the thing that I'm seeing, though. I mean, there's the speed of Google and there's the speed of enterprise, right? So they might have to throttle down. I don't want to say dumb down, because it's really not the issue. It's more of throttle down the cadence of what enterprises are comfortable with. For a given example, SLAs. They kind of aren't that, their SLAs are a little bit gray area, but they're awesome on, it only costs X dollars to import this great data and crunch all this stuff. So they have great pricing.
Yeah. They need to master. Diane did a masterful job of overnight. she had a utility that could go P to V, and you flipped it up, and everything just magically worked. And they need to prove